Before you dismiss this as another relationship advice video, understand that what I'm revealing comes from watching this pattern destroy countless relationships. I'm not here to tell you how to make her happy. I'm here to show you why trying is the exact thing that makes it impossible. You see, there's a fundamental mechanism at play that most people never recognize. They keep doing more, giving more, trying harder, and somehow the distance only grows. The complaints multiply. The satisfaction decreases. Nothing is ever quite enough. And here's what makes this truly dark. The harder you try to make her happy, the more unhappy she becomes. Let me tell you what everyone believes, what every relationship book and therapist repeats like a mantra. They say relationships require effort. They say you need to show up, communicate, meet needs, be present. All true to a point. But here's the lie hidden in that truth. They make you believe that her happiness is something you can create through your actions. That if you just find the right combination of gestures, words, timing, and effort, you'll unlock contentment in her. It's a program running in most people's minds. The performance program. Do enough, be enough, give enough, and you'll be rewarded with peace and happiness. Except when it comes to making someone else happy, this program crashes. Hard, because you're trying to fix an internal problem with external solutions. I knew this guy, successful, thoughtful, genuinely good person. He'd wake up early to make breakfast, leave notes, plan surprises, remember every detail she mentioned. He studied her like a textbook, learned her love language, went to therapy, worked on himself constantly. 6 months in, she was more miserable than when they started. 2 years in, she left. Told him he was suffocating her, that he tried too hard, that something just fell off. He was devastated, convinced he failed. But here's what he never understood. He was never the problem. The mechanism was. Let me break down the first layer of this. Genetics and programming. Human beings evolved with a negativity bias. Our brains are wired to scan for threats, for what's wrong, for what needs fixing. This kept our ancestors alive. In modern relationships, especially for women who historically needed to assess, make quality constantly for survival, this manifests as perpetual dissatisfaction scanning. Not conscious, not malicious, but constant. She's looking for what's missing, what's not quite right, what could be better. It's a program running in the background. When you show up trying to make her happy, trying to fill every need before she asks, you're actually triggering this scanning mechanism harder. Because now her brain has something to work with. It has your effort to measure against an impossible internal standard that keeps moving. I've watched this happen more often than people realize. The pattern is almost mechanical in its repetition. Man enters relationship. Woman has list of things that would make her happier. Man works on list. Completes list. Woman feels temporarily satisfied. Then new list appears. Man thinks this is normal relationship growth. He doesn't see he's entered an unwinnable game. But here's where it gets really twisted. The expectations versus reality gap. When you're constantly trying to make someone happy, you're communicating something at a deep level. You're saying through your actions that her emotional state is your responsibility, that her dissatisfaction is your problem to solve. And she starts believing it too. Time and again, I see this dynamic. The more you take responsibility for her happiness, the more she gives you that responsibility. It becomes your job, your burden. And here's the darkest truth about this dynamic. Once she's assigned you that job, you can never succeed at it. Because happiness isn't something one person creates in another. It's an inside job. It comes from internal alignment, self-acceptance, purpose, and choice. There was this period where I watched a couple implode in slow motion. He was solving problems constantly. She was cold. He turned up the heat before she asked. She mentioned wanting flowers. He bought them weekly. She felt disconnected. He planned date nights, weekend trips, couples activities. Every single thing she mentioned wanting, he delivered. And with each delivery, she found something new to be unhappy about. It wasn't that she was manipulative or cruel. She genuinely didn't understand what was happening. She'd say things like, "I don't know why I'm not happy. He does everything right." And that right there is the tell. When someone does everything right and it still doesn't create happiness, the source of unhappiness isn't external. It's internal. The mechanism works like this. Unresolved internal dissatisfaction seeks external targets. When you have childhood wounds, unmet needs from the past, identity confusion, or self-rejection, you feel a constant low-level unhappiness. Your mind needs to explain this feeling. It can't just sit with nameless dissatisfaction. So it looks for causes. And the closest target, the most convenient explanation, becomes the relationship. You see, if she's unhappy because of you, because you're not doing enough or being enough, then there's hope. There's something fixable. But if she's unhappy because of something inside her that she doesn't want to face, that's terrifying. That requires self-examination, therapy, inner work, taking responsibility for her own emotional state. Much easier to focus on what you're not doing. Here's what this looks like in practice. She comes home upset. You ask what's wrong. She says nothing, but her energy screams dissatisfaction. You try to fix it. Make dinner, offer to talk, give space, whatever you think might help. Nothing works. Hours later, she mentions you forgot to text her during lunch. And suddenly, that becomes the reason she's upset. But it's not. It's just the target her mind found for feelings that existed before you forgot a text. Many people experience this and think they're going crazy because the complaints keep changing. Last month, it was that you worked too much. You cut back hours. Now it's that you're not ambitious enough. Last week, she wanted more spontaneity. You surprised her with a trip. This week, she says you're irresponsible. The goalposts keep moving because they were never about the actual complaints. They were about finding external explanations for internal dissatisfaction. I knew this woman who left 3 relationships in 5 years. Same pattern each time. Started hopeful, found the cracks, focused on fixing the cracks, grew increasingly dissatisfied as cracks were fixed, left for someone new. Blamed each guy for different reasons. Too predictable, too unpredictable, too emotional, too cold. Never once examined the common variable, herself. But here's the paradox that makes this truly insidious. When you stop trying to make her happy, one of 2 things happens. Either she panics and temporarily improves because the dynamic shifted and she no longer has someone taking responsibility for her emotions, or she leaves because she needs someone who will take that responsibility. Either way, you learn the truth. Her happiness was never dependent on your actions. The projection mechanism is powerful here. People project their internal state onto their environment. If she's at peace internally, your small mistakes barely register. If she's in turmoil internally, your best efforts feel insufficient. You could be perfect and she'd still find something wrong because wrong is what she feels inside. It happens more often than people realize that someone leaves a relationship blaming their partner for their unhappiness, finds someone new, feels happy briefly, then slowly that same unhappiness returns. Same complaints, different face. Because the source never changed. The boyfriend changed, but the wound remained. The self-sabotage pattern runs deep. Some people are addicted to dissatisfaction. It's familiar. It's safe. It's what they know. When happiness actually shows up, when someone genuinely shows up for them, it triggers discomfort. Their system doesn't recognize this. So they create problems, push boundaries, pick fights, find flaws, not consciously, not to hurt you, but to return to the familiar feeling of struggle. Time and again, I see men exhaust themselves trying to be enough. They lose themselves in the process, stop seeing friends, abandon hobbies, change their personality, become smaller and smaller, hoping that if they just take up less space and cause fewer problems, she'll finally be happy. And she only becomes more dissatisfied because now she's with someone who's lost himself trying to please her. Here's what makes this truly painful to watch. Good men destroy themselves on this. Men with genuine love, real effort, actual commitment. They pour everything into making her happy and watch it evaporate like water on hot pavement. They blame themselves, think they're failing, get therapy, read books, try harder, never realizing they're solving the wrong problem. The test is simple. Ask yourself these questions. Do you feel like nothing you do is ever quite enough? Do the goalposts keep moving after you meet her requests? Does she seem unhappy even when circumstances are objectively good? Can you predict that whatever solution you offer will eventually become the new problem? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring her mood? When you ask what's wrong and she says nothing, but her energy says everything. If you answered yes to most of these, you're not in a relationship where your actions determine her happiness. You're in a relationship where her internal state determines her interpretation of your actions. This changes everything, because once you understand this, you realize the futility of trying harder. You see that taking responsibility for her happiness isn't noble or loving. It's enabling. It's preventing her from facing whatever internal work she needs to do. It's participating in a dynamic that will slowly destroy you both. I've watched men recover from this pattern, and it's always the same realization that frees them. The moment they understand that her happiness is her responsibility, not in a cold, dismissive way, but in a clear, boundary-based truth. You can be supportive. You can be kind. You can show up, but you cannot make her happy. That's her work. And here's what happens when you stop trying. Either she steps up and does her own internal work, faces her own patterns, takes responsibility for her emotional state, and the relationship transforms. Or she doesn't, and you realize you were never in a partnership. You were in a rescue mission that couldn't be completed. The reality that most people avoid facing is this. Some people are committed to their unhappiness at a level they don't even recognize. It's their identity. It's their story. It's how they understand themselves. Happy doesn't feel like them, so they'll sabotage it when it shows up. They'll find reasons to reject it. They'll blame others for its absence, but they won't do the internal work to create it. You cannot love someone into happiness. You cannot perform your way into her contentment. You cannot sacrifice yourself into her peace. These are hard truths that go against everything we're taught about relationships. We're told love conquers all, that effort equals success, that if we just care enough, it'll work out. But in this specific dynamic, effort makes it worse. Because you're trying to solve an external problem that's actually internal. The manipulation isn't conscious most of the time. She probably doesn't wake up thinking about how to move goalposts or create dissatisfaction. But the pattern is real regardless of intent. And participating in it, taking responsibility for emotions that aren't yours to manage, destroys you slowly. You become a shell, anxious, walking on eggshells, losing your identity, exhausted. For what? For happiness that never comes because it was never yours to create. Understanding this doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you recognize the difference between supporting someone and taking responsibility for their internal emotional state. It means you maintain boundaries. It means you offer love without losing yourself. And most importantly, it means you recognize when someone isn't doing their part of the work. Her happiness is her responsibility. And until she takes that responsibility, she'll remain unhappy no matter what you do, who she's with, or what she has.